Hey, what's going on everybody? Long time no see. Today we're going to be going over 5 different characters that are complex or hard to pick up in Granblue Fantasy Versus. And a little bit of a disclosure before I get into it. I do know that Granblue Fantasy Versus is completely different from other fighting games that require a little bit more execution or a little bit more time in the lab to be able to get right. When I say complex or hard to use, I'm meaning in the context of Granblue Fantasy Versus. I'll be going over all the different reasons why I think these characters are the hardest to pick up in Granblue Fantasy Versus, and also wanted to say that this is before Character Pass 2 comes out, so there might be a character in there that can be added to this list, but maybe I'll add to this list later down the line. Maybe I'll make another list in the future, but for the time being, this is before Character Pass 2. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Metra is actually one of my favorite characters in Granblue Fantasy Versus, more so because I love the hybrid of set play and zoning. I love to be able to use both of these playstyles in one game to be able to get a deadly game plan started. So now let's get into the reason why I think she's on the harder side, or one of the more complex characters in the roster. It's primarily because of 3 reasons. Number 1 is going to be zoning. Her zoning, while it's really strong and really good, having air fireballs and being able to control the space on the ground pretty easily, there is a very strong sense of anti-zoning in this game with the dodge roll and the spot dodging, and of course there's other characters that can actually blow through projectiles, whether it be invincibly or with armor. And because of this, Metra has to really switch up her arrow game, being able to keep the opponent out without having them come in and sliding into her DMs and completely blowing her up. So that's primarily one of the things. It's not the easiest thing to pick up at first, but once you get the hang of it, it's really strong, and you can be able to utilize Metra however you see fit. The second thing for her would be ways of her getting damage and confirming, and the obscurity in her combos. Now, compared to the rest of the roster, Metra has a very weird playstyle when it comes to her getting damage and just her combos in general. When it comes to her getting damage, of course, some of the things are pretty traditional, like, for example, auto combo into maybe EX arrow or something. But when you get to the corner and you start to be able to try to get her big damaging combos, you need to be able to set up butterflies, up shots. Her neutral is a little bit harder to play compared to the rest of the roster because it really depends on her having butterfly out. It depends on you jumping up in the air and you doing something. She can't really initiate something unless she's up close or has a butterfly out to be able to initiate the offense, essentially. The obscurity of her combos is also kind of weird just because most people have a streamlined way of doing combos. For example, button into special, button into special. Metra has more timing in her combos than the rest of the roster, so she requires a little bit more execution, a little bit more timing, and a little bit more practice in the lab because her combos can be kind of obscure. And she also has many different ways to be able to get these combos as well, and they're very easy to drop too because of the timing that I said. So because of those things, definitely Metra can be a little bit of a challenge for anybody who's just barely picking her up. And the third and final thing is going to be her defense, and having good defense is essential in this game, and Metra doesn't really have it. The only thing she really has is 2 things. She has her Scarts, which is not very fast. It's very predictable to see and all that good stuff. It's just good as an anti-air really, or a combo ender. And the last thing would be to utilize her hops to get out of the corner or out of high pressure situations. You can be able to just jump out and be able to hop out of there. But it's not very consistent because they can grab you out of the air, throw you back in the corner. It's not very consistent. You have to pick your spots. And just as a little bit of an honorable mention, she doesn't have the best anti-air because it is air blockable because it is a projectile. And because of that, you have to be able to play around that if they do block it because it's not a consistent hit confirm like everybody else is. The next character we're going to be talking about is Vasuraga, and Vasuraga is a hybrid between a grappler and a juggernaut type character utilizing armor moves, and he has a command grab to break guard as well, so he can be a threat. However, a lot of his tools revolve around Soulforge, which is a resource, and it can be difficult to be able to pick your spots to be able to put it on. People can completely maul you because Vasuraga doesn't have any defensive options outside of armored moves like his EX walk or maybe his shoulder tackle or his fully charged H normals. So a lot of that stuff really matters when it comes to playing defense with Vasuraga because you have to pick your spots to be able to get away from the opponent or push the opponent away and have the opportunity to put on Soulforge. On the other side of the coin, most people can find it challenging to fight as Vasuraga without Soul Forge, and that situation comes up a lot. Most of his moves are very punishable because he doesn't have any armor, so he can just DP right through it. The only armored move that he has in stance is going to be this one, that no matter what, that has super armor on it. Alongside that, he has some of the most obscure combos in this entire roster, just because he has to be able to utilize his stance, be able to utilize his shoulder tackles, to be able to juggle, and of course to be able to convert in very weird ways. Alongside that, his combos are very obscure because you have to be able to utilize EX run or EX stance very efficiently. If not, you're going to get destroyed. He requires a little bit of timing when it comes to his combos. Situations that requires labbing, because he does come across a lot of different situations that require very weird conversions, and that requires a lot of time to be able to get the timing down for you to fully convert with Vasuraga. Very strong Vasuraga players, what they do is they know how to convert, they know how to play without Soul Forge, and they can make you piss your pants scared when they do have Soul Forge on. And all those things require a lot of practice and a lot of time with the character, because his matchup spreadsheet might not be super terrible, but he's definitely, his walk speed, his speed in general, his combos, his conversions, all of them are just so weird. And they're so off the rockers, off the wall, obscurely weird. Either way, he's super rewarding when you do get a W with him, so I recommend him for anybody who's trying to have a little bit of more beef in their diet, you know what I'm saying? Now let's talk about Percival for a bit. While being one of the best characters in the game, of course, it doesn't come without a little bit of challenge. First and foremost, he's a resource character. As you can see, he has stocks, and being able to get these stocks are very important to his game plan, because you can be able to get the best out of Percival once you have stocks on. And some of the stuff actually require you to have more than one stock, so that can be a challenge in itself. Not only do you have to have a good sense of, okay, I can charge here without getting punished, but you also have to be able to manage it properly. Some of his fireballs do, some of his command normals or command dash special moves do as well. A lot of different things get powered up. And you want those power-ups because he gets all those really cool conversions and really satisfying damage as well. You can be able to get big damage just off of a conversion like that, or be able to get very good damage off like that too. You can be able to get supers, different conversions, all the Oki, everything like that he has. Now, a couple more things that new players might tend to find a little bit weird is once you reach a certain ceiling, things can get a little bit linear for Percival. Well, that's when you start to master the command dash, and that's where things become a little bit more fleshed out with the character. The command dash is definitely one of the best things about this character, because he can stop it midway, go for a grab, or he can of course finish it for a nicely spaced low as well, or he can just completely finish it and get a combo off of it, of course. And that whole mind game mentality can be really draining on the opponent as well, being able to think, okay, is he going to stop his command dash or is he not? And that concept can be very challenging at first for a beginner player. Alongside that, his normals really aren't super amazing. While they are great spacing-wise and range-wise, they have a lot of recovery. A lot of recovery that can be easily punished if left unchecked. As you can see, very easily punishable long-range moves. So good Percival players really have to be able to space out their normals correctly, because if not, they can get punished very easily. And that can be frustrating for certain players as well. Next character we're going to talk about is Narmaya, and I think a lot of people would agree with me putting Narmaya on here because she is one of the more complex characters because of two reasons. Number one, she has a stance. She has two different stances, I apologize. So she has two different sets of moves that you have to be able to keep an eye out for, to watch the cooldowns for, and to have to know when to utilize them as well, depending on the situation. Not only that, but being able to switch between stances while doing pressure, while doing combos, can also be a challenge to new players, as well. Pushing aside her stance switches, her traditional gameplay or traditional neutral is not so different from the traditional neutral you see from Gran, Catalina, Jita, all those characters, but the way she can actually execute the same things those characters can is a lot tougher. because you still have to be able to use the stance switching, and you have to be able to know which resources have been used up. Because there's no way for me to be in Genji stance and go and know what in Kagura stance is still in cooldown. There's no way for me to know that. So compared to, let's say, Gran, who his conversions are very, very simple. All you have to do is go like this, and you have you're at the wall, you get a free wall bounce, etc., etc. Narmaya, what she has to do, she has to be very, very, very close to the opponents, but if she's not close, then she has to be able to utilize 2 resources. She has to be able to convert from afar and utilize her command dash and her EX slashes as well to be able to at least make it worth it that you made the conversion. Because if not, the conversion is going to be basically this, which really doesn't do much. So in the corner, same game plan as Catalina and Gran, but the way for her to be able to make the conversion worth it is a little bit tougher than those characters. So compared to the other Shotos and the other characters that have the same game plan as her, she's a little bit more on the weaker side of things. That doesn't mean she doesn't have her own unique things. I'm just telling you as to why you have to work so much harder as Narmaya than as Gran, or as Jita, or as anybody else who plays a little bit like her. So with that being said, she is very rewarding when you get to know all of her stance switching, get to know all of her different ways to be able to open the opponent up, her shenanigans, her combos, everything like that is very rewarding. But in order to be able to get to that destination, you have to complete the journey, and that can be the toughest part. Ladies and gentlemen, we're here at the last character, Zoe, the most recent character in this game. Yes, she is one of the more complex characters in the roster. Let me tell you why as well. She has a more traditional toolset when it comes to her normals and her special moves, but one thing that makes her unique and makes her one of the toughest characters in this game is, of course, her Wyvern, Lee. This Wyvern is 100% one of the toughest things in Granblue Fantasy Versus to maintain, because you do have a bar, and it does waste quite quickly if you don't utilize it correctly. Now, you have to be able to know when to stop the combo, when to get the damage, when to not get the damage, when to use the actual Wyvern, when to not. And that can be a challenge, a real big challenge in itself, because so many other characters can just walk all over her. And the only way for her to return the favor, I really do mean this, is for the Wyvern to do some work. The Wyvern really does make Zoe one of the better characters in this game. But where her difficulty comes from is maintaining this Wyvern. Like, for example, you do a combo, and now at this point, you have to be able to sacrifice Oki or to be able to sacrifice set play for you to get more meter. And that decision making is all upon the character, on the player. And if the player doesn't know how to make those decisions, she can be a rough character to play. Alongside that, she has one of the more weaker defensive options in this game. She doesn't have the greatest, but she does have this, which can be used as a reversal. It does have some invincibility, but it's not frame 1, so it's not consistent. It can be utilized pretty well as a anti-fireball move or as a anti-air move. I have seen it being used like that too. And the dragons is what's going to make the difference between you being a good Zoe player and you being a pretty average Zoe player. Compared to Narmaya, who has a pretty traditional game plan, Zoe has one of the more unique ones. She can utilize the dragon to play high-low mix-ups, left-right mix-ups, be able to cast a throw and combo off of a throw, of course. It's one of the coolest characters that they have developed for sure, but that comes with a price. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you guys enjoyed this quick run through of the 5 characters I think are the most complex or not the easiest to pick up at first. However, with all these characters, you can definitely do it. You can definitely pick up Zoe, you can definitely pick up Vasuraga and do well with them as long as you put in the work. I'll be uploading more of these kind of videos with helping out people pick their characters or helping people get better at Granblue Fantasy Versus. Let me know what you guys want to know in the next video. Let me know what you guys want to see in the comment section down below. Like the video if you guys did. Let me know if you guys want me to go over the 5 best characters or 5 easiest characters. I can definitely do a follow-up to this video with the 5 easiest. Take care, everybody. I'll see you guys in the next Granblue Fantasy Versus video. Subscribe to the channel, by the way. We're almost at 50,000. You guys are doing awesome. Take care. We'll see you next time.